Today we're going to be talking about the things that you cannot do in an HOA. Now, I'm not talking about condominium HOA. I'm not talking about villas. I am talking about in a single family home community. And that's kind of the caveat here, because many times people think, well, these rules, they don't really apply to me because I'm not going to buy a condo or a villa. I'm not going to buy in one of those communities where the homes are attached, so I can do whatever I want. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Many times you can't, and we're going to be talking about that. All right, so if this is the first time we're meeting, let me introduce myself. My name is Barrett Pastor, and I've been a real estate broker for over 26 years. So hopefully I'm coming to you from a place of knowledge and experience, and I can help you navigate all things non-brochure living, okay? Can we all agree you can get the brochure living anywhere? I'm going to tell you about the things that you really do need to know. Now, if you're somebody that wants to do a deep dive into your personal scenario, how to work out the buy and sell from up north, what should my timing look like, what are some areas I should be looking at, here's how I want to live, tell me what hits this. I do offer 40-minute consultations. I will leave a link below and right here. If you're interested in that, I would love to chat with you. All right, so here are the things that you may not be aware of that you can't necessarily do even if you have single family home ownership in an HOA. Now, I'm going to start by telling you there are some areas in Southwest Florida and on the east coast of Florida that do not have HOAs, so you can do whatever you want. So just for example, for the most part, for example, Golden Gate Estates in Naples, a lot of people are unaware that there is an area, you do have to get out a bit, but there is an area that is non-HOA. You can find huge lots, and by huge I mean over an acre. A lot of the lots are 2 to 5 acres. You can find land, and in that scenario you can do almost whatever you want. You can park a dump truck on your front lawn, you can have a gun shooting range in the back, you can have peacocks, you can have cows, whatever. And those are real life examples, by the way. So there are areas that you can do whatever you want, but most of the area in Southwest Florida is gated. So you may think that you're exempt from this if you're buying single family home. No. So let's go over the things that you need to dig into those HOA rules. You need to read every single restriction and make sure you understand it so you don't get caught up in this. And as I say all the time on this channel, it is so important that you work with a good real estate agent that understands the rules, has experience in the area, and can guide you. Because listen, if you have a pit bull and little Dottie the pit bull can't come along after you've purchased your house, that's going to be an enormous problem. All right, so we're going to move through these pretty quickly, and I have to say this every time because somebody right now is typing,
I know a community, Barrett, where you could have pit bulls, fences, and you can park your dump truck in the front yard.
I'm sure that you do. We're talking about, for the most part, in an HOA, 98% of the time, fencing. Most of the time you can't have fencing. Now, sometimes you can have an electric fence if you have a dog, but many, many times you can't have fencing at all. If you back to a lake, even one of those community lakes, it just doesn't look good. Have you ever seen that? I don't see it a lot in Naples. I've seen it in a couple communities, and I just think it looks aesthetically pretty bad, if I'm being honest. But you do see it fairly often in Fort Myers, where there's a lake and they've allowed fencing. So if you have this landscape and this beautiful pond, but everybody around you has different types of fencing, it just does not look the way that you're hoping that it will look, that beautiful view to the water. Can we all agree on that? So a lot of times fencing is not allowed in these HOA communities. Number 2, multiple pets. So 2 cats, 2 dogs. 2 dogs at all. Dogs over 25 pounds. the closer together the houses are, so like maybe like a zero lot line type of situation, even the newer homes that are built really, really close to each other, you know what I'm talking about. You open your window and you look out and you're right, you could basically hand your neighbor a cup of coffee. A lot of times those communities will have rules against dogs that are bigger. And by bigger, I mean like over 25 pounds, over 40 pounds. There are rules like that, and they do get very specific as it relates to how many dogs, the breed of the dog, and the weight of the dog. Now you may say, how is somebody gonna know how much Dottie the dog weighs? They're going to ask you for the vet records. So it does matter. Be aware of that. Definitely look at that on the front end. And depending on the contract that's used, that will determine if you have that sort of layer, that layer of assurance that you can review everything you need to review. And also, as an aside, depending on the contract that was used, that's going to determine when and how you get to look at those HOA rules, who obtains them, how long you have to look at them, if you have a time frame to look at them. So be sure, again, I'm just going to say it again, who you work with matters. Make sure that somebody understands that, especially, I would say, even if you don't think you have any weird scenarios, there might be a weird scenario in the HOA rules. Just a really quick example, I had somebody who thought, you know, I don't do anything weird. You know, I'm a single lady. I'm 67 years old. I don't have any weird things. And she did not read the HOA restrictions. This was in a condo community, however. And there was something that said they can fine you if you wear heavy perfume in the elevator. I am not kidding you. This was in Naples, Florida, downtown area of Naples, Florida. And that's probably been in there for 40, 50 years, and nobody ever took it out, nobody ever read it, but that was actually in there. Number 3, gardens, sheds, things that you would put outside. There are many communities that don't allow that. They don't allow the gardens. You might say, why not? Because of critters, because of animals that might come up. There are also communities that won't allow you to feed the ducks and the birds that are on the water, and that might be something you really looked forward to. Maybe you loved to bird watch and you wanted to put a bird feeder out because that was part of your day. You wanted to get up in the morning, sit in the lanai, and look at, you know, the waterfowl and the little duckies. And some communities don't allow that because they're concerned that an alligator is going to see those ducks and now we have a bigger problem. So don't assume that you can have those kind of things. Sheds are almost unheard of. When you drive through the area, you're going to see there's almost none. So again, if that was something you had in your mind, check that out. Parking on the street. So the driveways in Florida, single family homes, especially the newer ones, are notoriously small. Sometimes you're lucky to get an SUV on the drive at all. In the garage is really like you're close. So a lot of the drives, they're just teeny tiny. So don't make the assumption that if it's husband and wife, we've got 2 cars there, and then you've got 1 or 2 kids and they're driving age, and those kids, you're just gonna have them park on the street because that way you're not creating a jam up on your driveway. No, no, no. Sometimes you can park on the street, but you can't park overnight. And trust me when I tell you, they will fine you and they will tow you. Number 5, having a truck or a motorcycle. So real life example, I have a past client who had a beautiful Harley, very expensive Harley. It was pristine. He took amazing care of it. And one of the things that he really wanted to do was be able to sit in the beautiful weather in the winter and work on his Harley in the garage, shine it up, all winter long in Florida. Well, guess what? The first week that he moved in, he got a notice. You can't have a motorcycle. Now, let me tell you, I worked with him. I told him he can't have a motorcycle. He said, I won't bring it. I won't bring it. And I could tell by the look in his eye he was bringing it. And I told him, I said, listen, if you bring it, we had this conversation because they don't play. Well, he did that. He got a letter of warning. He got a second letter of warning. Next time, he got a $500 fine. He was absolutely furious. And he said, but it's in my garage. And they said, it doesn't matter. You can't have it. He ended up moving. He ended up moving over it. So I'm telling you, don't think they will not come after you, because they will. And on that note, you might have a truck. You might have a $100,000 truck. They don't care. It doesn't matter. They're not talking about junky beaters. They're not talking about that. Any truck. They don't want to look at a truck. Nobody wants to look at a truck. Why? I have no idea. Because the complaints that come in about there are no workers, there's no general contractor. Well, you don't let it, what are they going to do? Go rent space somewhere for their truck? So many communities have that rule. No trucks, no motorcycles. It does not matter how nice your truck is. You can't, if you can't bring it, you can't bring it. Number 6, landscaping. If you love certain flowers and certain trees, it is possible that you can't plant those. So there is one particular community that you can only plant palm trees in your front yard, and no more than 2 of them. So there are rules like that. There are certain flowers that aren't allowed. I can think of a community where the scent of the flower is considered too strong, so you're not allowed to plant this. They list them, all the flowers that you can't plant. These are the things that you may never think of, but that is why I always tell people, when I send somebody the rules and regulations, I tell them, read them, read them, read them. And I'll even say, did you read them? Because there's a form we can use that we're going to ask you to sign off and say you read them. So make sure that you do, because these are the things that we're trying to avoid. Now, you may drive through a community and say, I love the style of these houses, I love the community, but I am not into these bland colors. I am in Florida. I want to stand out. I like the Key West colors. I don't like the grays and the tans and the yellows. I don't want that. I want more of a turquoise blue, a pistachio color, because that's what I like, and that reminds me of Florida. Listen, if you're in an HOA, it's highly probable that you're going to get a list of colors that you can have on the exterior walls and also the roof. And you will not, you have to get permitted to do that. You have to go through their architectural committee, and there's usually landscape committees as well. And you have to get that first layer from the HOA manager. And usually what happens is you won't get that approval until there's an HOA meeting. And then they ask everybody, what do you think about this? So-and-so, Mr. and Mrs. Main Street, they want to paint their house turquoise. Is that okay? Absolutely not. No way. To avoid that, what they do is they put lists of these are the 5 colors that you can have on your house. So don't make the assumption when you drive through a community that, well, I don't want my house to be that color. I'm going to be the only house that is more of a turquoise. No, there's a reason that all the colors are the same. And then the last one I want to mention is that these HOA managers, some of them have decided that they're kind of like the insurance companies. You know, have you heard the stories about insurance companies flying drones overhead to look at your roof? Wow. That's over the top to me, but that's what's going on. And then they're requiring you to have a roof inspection, so they can require you to put a roof on, or they're going to drop you and you get a letter in the mail. But I digress. We're talking about HOA managers. So let's just say, for example, Earl Smith down the road here, he's from Michigan, he retired years ago, he is the HOA manager. So he gets in his golf cart at night and he drives around at dusk with a glass of wine in hand, and he looks for violations. You need to paint your mailbox. Oh, I think I see a little chip paint up there in your soffit. Oh, that looks like a rose bush. We're going to have to do something about that. There are a lot of those out there, folks. I am just telling you, I told you, on this channel, we are not talking about brochure living. We're talking about the things you need to be aware of when you move into an HOA. These things can happen. So I don't tell you any of this to scare you. I tell you all of this to prepare you so that you know you go in with eyes wide open, and when Earl Smith cruises by your home with a pen out, you know what he's doing.